and start fixing. I'm happy now to take your questions.
Dr. Lewis, you say you're still awaiting his response. I guess he commented on your proposals for the media. I think he also sent a response for the media and said binding arbitration is simply not going to happen because the interview negotiations aren't over. So is that not an adequate response on that request?
This is a very confusing situation. I mean, our interpretation initially when we received a call from the government stating that all future meetings were cancelled, to us, led us to believe that negotiations were discontinued. So we're in a bit of a dilemma ourselves. I mean, in the sense that somebody is saying that the negotiations are over. I get a phone call from the Minister of Health saying that that was all confusion and negotiations are not over. So we're a bit confused, but our interpretation at the moment that the negotiations were ceased, and we felt with the milieu that we're currently in that the only viable way that we can move forward here is with binding arbitration.
If I can just add here, our letter to the Premier was asking for arbitration. His response was not that I'm refusing to do binding arbitration. His response is we don't respond favorably to threats or misinformation. So he hasn't answered our question.
Minister Marshall did give media commentary on Friday saying no, that their negotiations are continuing. He's the minister who would determine that. So
right.
The Premier didn't respond, but his government has.
Okay.
Was that not communicated to you guys?
It wasn't communicated to us directly. I mean, it may have come across in the media, but certainly nobody has communicated to us directly. Now, as I indicated a little while ago, I did receive a call from Mr. Jeff Williams about 2 minutes before our meeting began. It was interesting. The call was placed by a woman who said to me, "Please hold for Mr. Marshall," and the person that came on the call was Jeff Williams. I asked him whether there was anyone else in the room, and he indicated that he wasn't in his office, and there was one other person in the room. But the whole thing, based on some of the developments that have happened in the last week or so, needless to say, make us a little more than suspicious. And that's why it's really important from here on in that any communications between government and ourselves need to be in writing. Because anything that's communicated verbally seems to have a way of changing its meaning from 1 minute to the next. So there is a lot of confusion, as Dr. Lewis indicated, and we're asking for binding arbitration. If they are refusing, we're going to wait and see whether we get a reply to our written letter before we make any other determinations.
Now, if the Premier called you after this and said, "Okay, let's go back to the table," I mean, would you do it without the binding arbitration?
Well, I think the first thing we need to have from the Premier or from any of his ministers is a written response to the letter that we wrote. That's what we need.
That would probably be the first step in trying to get this thing sorted out.
March 3rd letter.
So
that's right.
Until you get a response to this letter?
Well, I don't want to restrict any encounters that deal with improving the healthcare situation. For example, they called and asked to have a meeting on intensive care. I indicated to them last week that the key person who needs to be involved in that discussion is Dr. George Fox. The reason the meeting was scheduled for last Friday was because Dr. Fox was leaving the province the following day. So they did try to accommodate us initially, and then, of course, the meeting was canceled. Do we want to still discuss intensive care? Absolutely. It's a serious problem. But again, we don't want to have conversations about trying to solve problems and then get beat up with stories of one sort or another. So there has to be a formal process, and that's one of the reasons that we're really looking for binding arbitration here, because the confidence in the process has evaporated.
Dr. Lewis, you say you're going to start holding a series of information sessions so that our parents and public can understand exactly what is at stake. I'm sure that's going to be viewed on the Hill as a little bit of a pressure tactic, as a way to sort of drive public opinion to get behind the doctors in this place.
What we need is for everyone to understand what's involved in this particular situation. The major issue that we want to remain focused on is the delivery of patient care. And at this point, I'd like to reassure our public, my patients, the public, and everyone else's patients, that the delivery of care is continuing as best we can in the situation that we're living in. Our primary focus is to ensure that patients receive timely access to care. And so our whole point about the information sessions is to make the public more aware of where the deficiency lies and also what our attempts are in terms of trying to improve the situation. And what we really want is working closely with government in a team effort so that we can come to some conclusions, so that our patients are satisfied and that care is provided in the proper way.
Just for the record, you were saying, the Premier had talked about these, your demands being through the roof too high. Has he ever pointed out exactly what he means by that?
The only comment that we have is what has been said in the media, and we've never received any correspondence from him indicating anything other.